Caleen, hi.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Hey, thank you for calling in. I know that things are, what's going on down in California, to take time, and that you're busy, and I know that we've been trying to do this for a little bit, so I'm really grateful. And Mockeray says say hello, and so first I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself, and we can talk a little bit about what's going on in California. Thank you.
Did you want me to do that right now?
Yep, we can do that right now.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay. I'm Chief Caleen Sisk, and I'm with the Winnemem Wintu Tribe in Northern California by Mount Shasta, and our river runs into Lake Shasta. And, we've been here for thousands of years, and of course the federal government does not list our tribe as a federally recognized tribe. So we have a lot of issues concerning our sacred sites and protection of them as we use them. So it's a difficult situation with the federal government not upholding the responsibilities of indigenous people's rights to protect and utilize their own sacred grounds. So that's kind of where we're at, right now with raising a Shasta Dam plan. And of course, they say the raise of Shasta Dam is for the salmon, and we are very interested in getting our salmon back. There was a fish hatchery on our river in the 1800s, 1872. They built the first U.S. fish hatchery on the West Coast, on the McCloud River. And from that point, there was a crash in Atlantic salmon at the time, and they sent salmon from that hatchery around the world to see if they could, get more salmon runs. But they failed to recognize that the Pacific salmon are different than Atlantic salmon, and of course they died everywhere they sent them, except for New Zealand. And during our war dance in 2004, when we were opposing the Shasta Dam raise for the salmon, we got a call from New Zealand, and they said they had our fish. And so now, with the conditions of the fish up and down the Pacific coast, every time that we could help salmon in any of the areas all the way up to Russia, it's only for the better of the climate and for the rivers and for everything. And so right now we have an opportunity to bring back the McCloud River salmon, the same exact salmon that live in New Zealand now. But the foresters and the Bureau of Reclamation and the BIA and, in Department of the Interior, they're not really working with us very much on that. We do oppose the raising of Shasta Dam because it'll flood our sacred sites, and we don't believe that it really helps salmon, even though they list it as, they'll have more cold water. But that isn't what's going to make more salmon. So there's a lot of issues that we believe, if we can get the salmon back, that many things will change. That the rivers will change, and all things on the river will change. It'll go back to like a magical time, where the trees and the grasses and the animals up there will have what they haven't had for 75 years. So that's what we're working on right now, is to get our salmon back. We made a trip to New Zealand and danced for those salmon to bring them home. And the Maori people, the Naitahu, who have the salmon in their rivers on the South Island, have agreed to help us. And so we have access to eyed eggs that could be shipped from New Zealand back to the McCloud River. But, we have no way of getting on these committees for the fish passage. They're not listening to us, and we have gone gone up to Oregon a few times, and many postcards from Oregon and around everywhere else has been sent to the Bureau of Reclamation asking that, we be allowed to be on that fish committee to, have a voice in what happens to our river. The UN Declaration of Indigenous Peoples' Rights pretty much tells us that we have a right to be involved and be participants in something that's going to affect us.
Absolutely, because it's your inherent right that from first people of that land there, that this government doesn't really have, in my mind anyways, doesn't have jurisdiction over people that have lived there thousands and thousands of years before the European got here.
Right. But now they say we're not a recognized tribe, therefore we don't really have any rights. But there is no other recognized tribe in that whole river. But they know that we are the ones, we're the indigenous people from that river, recognized or not.
Yeah, our stories tell us that, and you've always been there, and so you would know that. Yep. So how would people get involved? What can we do to help this process? I know that you have a website that people can look at, but other than that, what would you suggest us to do?
The only other things that I can think of is writing letters to Sue Fry, or maybe her boss, which I'm not sure who up the Bureau of Reclamation is, experts on salmon. Because, NOAA and the U.S. fisheries are not in charge of bringing the salmon back to the river, which is, I find it odd. But if they could, even to Feinstein and Boxer, to say, the indigenous peoples of the river should be allowed to participate in the plans of returning salmon to our river.
So would you? So I'm looking at the wildlifecalifornia.gov. Would that be a place to start for people to call?
It would be a place to. It would be a place to call. I think. I'm trying to get a meeting with the U.S. Fisheries, U.S. Wildlife, and also the State Fish and Game. But even that, they're on the committee of this bringing the salmon back. While, we have written to them, we have asked them, we have been in meetings for, 3 or 4 years now, and still we haven't even heard one word from Sue Fry as to even why. I've asked the question, why can't we be on that committee? And, gotten skirted answers, but I keep still asking, what is it that keeps us from being on that committee? And at first they told me in a meeting verbally that it was because we were federally recognized. So I asked them to put that in writing. Send me a letter saying I can't be on that committee to bring my fish back to our river because I'm not federally recognized. And so far I haven't been able to get that letter from them. They sent a letter saying what the committee was made up of, and I said, well, that's good, And then I said, but I'm still asking you, why can't I be on that committee? And then they sent a letter saying who's on the committee, and that there are a number of others that would want to be on the committee, but they can't, And it's like, well, that's great, but why can't we be on the committee? I don't care if PG&E can't be on the committee or Westlands Water District can't be on the committee. It's like, why can't the original tribe who worked in that fish hatchery and knew the fish before you came can't be on there when you're going to return that fish to the very river that's our cultural traditional site? So I think that, any kind of letters that could go to Senator Feinstein or Boxer would be great. It is a long-term project, but I think Sue Fry is targeting, this coming summer to have her plan in place, and still, she has not allowed us to be on the committee.
And So I wanted to let folks know that there is a film out. It's called Dancing Salmon, and it says here that there's 28 members of the Wintu Tribe of Northern California that traveled to New Zealand to reunite with their salmon relatives. And so, and it goes on, but I just wanted to just put in there that the Salmon people are important people, and we know that from living here in the Northwest, and how the tribes know those songs and those stories that go with the land. And so for us to get involved, I would encourage people to write letters and let them know that the first people of that land need to be on that committee to make these choices that is affecting their tribe and our wildlife, all of our everything. I mean, we know that from here.
Yeah. Like I say, all of the salmon affect all of the salmon. Like whatever happens at Pebble Mine in Alaska happens to all of the salmon. If the rivers don't produce, like if the Sacramento River stops producing because they want to put the tunnels in, then all of the salmon are affected because there won't be the number of salmon coming from the Sacramento River or McCloud River to meet all the needs of the orcas and everything else that eats salmon in the ocean before they come back up the river. And so every river, every salmon people need to have a wider scope of understanding about the salmon when they're out in the ocean. And these rivers that are being blocked and the reduced number of salmon, like I don't know if people know that this year, because of the drought year in California, they've pretty much killed most of the wild salmon that spawn in the Sacramento River because of the water temperature, because they chose to pump water to the ag business farms rather than the fishery. So that'll affect the other fish in the coming years, because there'll be less spawners coming back in the Sacramento River because they died as fry.
And you see the connection, and like I just hear our uncle that just crossed about how the salmon are the measuring stick of the wellness of all the Northwest, all up and down the West Coast. And when the salmon people can't live, we can't live.
Yeah, I believe that.
And if there's not enough to take care of all the food chain you're talking about, and ourselves included, and because they feed the people, they sacrifice their life for all of us to live. So it just, again, this is another one of those things that, like, in my head, I know it has been happening since time immemorial, but I just can't understand why it's still happening today, in this time where we know these things, and that the original people need to be involved.
Yep.
And so I encourage people to go to it's a long, I'll post it on my webpage. It's well, I can spell it out if you got a paper and pen. It's www.winnememwintu.us, and that should bring you into this page. It said Return to Justice, and there's lots of information folks can look at to see where the tribe's at and see how they can help. And there's also, they can view the film I was talking about at Dancing Salmon Home film screens. And so is there anything else that we could share with our relatives that is on your heart that's happening in California? One of the things that, because I have a brother that's a Chumash from the Santa Barbara area, and I know a lot of the things that are happening in the water, and it's really affecting all of us, from, like you just said, from coast to coast. And so is there anything that you'd like to share with our relatives that's happening that we haven't really talked about?
Well, Oregon, California, Alaska, and Washington we are 4 states who are equipped, the best states that are equipped to grow or to have salmon in all of the states. We're the best ones. And yet, that industry, even on the commercial level, in California we used to have a lot of canneries, and a lot of people made their living off of salmon. And then the salmon crashed, but the reason it crashed was because of the diversion of water to ag business. Not farmers, but ag business. And I say that because we should all be salmon states. California should be a salmon state, not an agricultural almond, pistachio, watermelon state. We should be the salmon state of the United States. We are the 4 best states to do this. And right now, the whole Pacific coast of salmon is crashing. And mainly because, industry is diverting the water that salmon need. But they can make as much money on salmon as they do on ag business and not harm the environment the way that they're doing. And it would be a healthier food to feed the world than pistachios or watermelon.
Absolutely.
So, I would like people to kind of think about that and think about, what can we all do to change our state so that we start thinking responsible about salmon and about that it is a healthy food, that we get omega-3s from it. It's used in so many of our health benefits that we can't afford to allow them to say, there's no jobs in salmon.
And it's the traditional food of this area, and I know that when we start to eat the traditional foods, we get rid of the diabetes. Yeah. All those things that we know that are connected with not eating our traditional diets.
Yep. Everything gets healthier with salmon.
I couldn't agree more, and I just know that hearing you speak and understanding that they are diverting more and more for these housing developments that are going in, and they're diverting the water that the salmon need to survive, to come up the river to feed the people. And the salmon also, the way that they nurture the land when they die. All these things that happen is better for our environment, for all of us, from the littlest things that we can't see to all of us.
Yep, that is true.
So, and I appreciate you taking time. I know everybody's on a busy schedule, but it's
I'll be up there in Oregon in Eugene at the university during the Women of Color Conference, which is May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And Pua Case from Hawaii is coming in for that as well. And so I think that's going to be a good thing. And then the CASPA conference that's coming up in April. I think it's the 24th and 25th. I can't remember the date. But hopefully, people can get out and listen to some of these great people, too, to see what's going on. Because, in Hawaii, I always feel like our mountains are connected. Mount Shasta and Mount Araki in New Zealand and Mauna Kea in Hawaii. These are volcanoes that are all connected to water, and we need to start communicating like that too. All the indigenous people coming together, all the people who care about our environment and can actually imagine, that we don't have to take every drop of oil at the same time ruining our environment to live. Because, we're not going to live very long.
If we don't start to take care of it, and I always say I feel very blessed with all the elders around me that share that, and the first people and the native people are not doing their ceremonies, not doing their way, not dropping that tobacco in those prayers, then none of us are going to be able to live.
Yep.
And I know that in my heart, and it's so important for our people to start to share. Well, we've always shared, but for people to really listen with their hearts, that that the people that have lived on these watersheds for thousands and thousands of years really know what's going on, and it's really important for us to listen.
Yep. And this is the time that, this list of federally recognized tribes does not make one bit of sense. It's like, when does the government decide who is and who isn't? When they came in and killed us all, they didn't say, hey, are you guys recognized or not?
It's absolutely true. It is a form of genocide.
It is. It is, and I hope the recognized tribes start realizing that, that list doesn't really mean that they're all Indian either, or that they all have a tradition. It just means the BIA has a lineal descendancy down to 1/4,000th of an Indian, and they're on the list. But tribes were never meant that way. We were distinguished by our watersheds, by our fish, by our ceremonies, by our culture, not by our drops of blood.
And the elder told me the only one that could tell me who I am is my grandma.
Yes.
and she's not the BIA.
No.
So.
No.
Yeah, I hear that, and I feel like sometimes it's a division. It divides us, and I know if Native people worldwide unite, we get rid of it. We'll get rid of all these things that are ailing the earth and each other, because it really is time for us to do that. It's always been time in my mind, but right now you can see all the things that are happening on the planet that it wouldn't happen if we were working together. Yep,
and that's what we have to move to that direction, but it's hard with the entrepreneurs and casino tribes seeking only kind of profitable things that help their casinos make more money, rather than helping the indigenous issues that they should be caring about too. So hopefully one day they'll wake up and it won't be too late, and they can actually start helping defend, these sacred places in Mother Earth, and bring goodness to water and ceremonies.
Yeah, and I do see a lot of that happening, though. That they are doing that with. I know tribes around here are the reason why we still have salmon and clean water is because of the tribes around here, and the taking part of that when those canoes hit the water, that prayer. And so I would like to see that across the board.
Yeah. Well, it was a great thing when the canoes came back on the water, all up and down, in Washington and everything, and they started singing the boat songs again. That woke up the ocean.
Absolutely.
That tilted it in our favor when they start singing to the whales and they start singing to the ocean, when their paddles, hit that water and move it. That's what we needed.
Absolutely.
Now we need to move that upstream where the salmon are spawning.
Absolutely, and I know that the tribes on the Pacific Rim, they're all uniting in that way, and it's amazing. The largest resurgence of indigenous culture coming on the waterways, and it's I just love being a witness, and I'm grateful for that prayer.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time for that kind of thing happening, and a lot of young people are seeing that and coming along and understanding it a little bit better, who they are when they stand on these rivers or paddle on the waters.
Absolutely. So again, I appreciate you taking time with us this evening to share, and I hope that we stay in touch.
Okay, hope to see you up there sometime.
Okay.
All right, you take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.